Right. Your time is 16 minutes after the hour, 10 o'clock. And of course, certainly this is the ultimate place to be. As I said earlier on, that our special guest on the show by visual zooming is Bishop Lazarus Maumela, responding to an explosive letter by former President Thabo Mbeki to the ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile. Not long ago, we remember that former President Thabo Mbeki has questioned why the ANC has consistently blocked any parliamentary investigation into the Phala-Phala. President Mbeki also wrote that explosive letter to the ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile. And the former President Thabo Mbeki warned that the actions of the ANC would alienate people from the party. He further alluded that the former president warned that the actions of the ANC would alienate people from the party. And former President Thabo Mbeki went on to say on his explosive letter, I quote, he said, the former President Thabo Mbeki suggested that the ANC has used its majority in parliament to vote against any investigations into the Phala-Phala saga because it suspects that President Cyril has done something wrong. He added that the ANC wanted to protect President Ramaphosa at all cost. The comments are contained in an explosive 17-page letter that was dated the 29th of March, where former President Thabo Mbeki wrote to the Deputy President. The former president said the ANC had to be honest with itself. In the scathing letter, former President Mbeki asked why the ANC in Parliament had blocked any investigations into the Phala-Phala saga, which he linked to the Nkandla matter involving former President Jacob Zuma. He also cited that the ANC's decision in December to use its majority in the National Assembly to vote against the establishment of an impeachment committee following the report of an independent panel which found that President Ramaphosa had a case to answer on the matter. The former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo found that President Ramaphosa had a case to answer regarding the break-in and the theft of $580 US, about 10 million from his game farm in Phala-Phala. And then he further alluded that the ANC used its majority in parliament to block the inquiry into the saga. And then he goes on and on and on and on. It's a 17-page letter, by the way. And then he also alleges that I would presume that as an ANC members, we would assume that our president would not do and has not done anything which Parliament should not investigate in the course of the discharge of the constitutional duty. And then he also alludes that he warns that the actions of the ANC regarding the Phala-Phala issue had the potential of alienating the party from the masses of the people. And the former president said he had written to Paul Mashatile because President Ramaphosa had previously excused himself from discussing the Phala-Phala in the ANC meetings. So this is why the former president wrote the letter to the former president Thabo Mbeki. That's why he wrote the letter to the ANC Deputy President Paul Mashatile. He alleges that because President Ramaphosa had previously excused himself from discussing the Phala-Phala matter in the ANC meetings. And of course, the response, the pushback and the fight back from Bishop Lazarus Maumela as a response towards the so-called the hatred letter by former President Thabo Mbeki to President Cyril Ramaphosa. So this is the push back and the fight back from President Ramaphosa's ally, Bishop Lazarus Maumela. Will be joining us shortly on a visual Zoom So stay with us right here on 89.1 FM. Your time, it's 21 minutes after the hour, 10 o'clock. And of course, our guest is the Honorable Bishop Lazarus Maumela, President Ramaphosa's allied, responding to the explosive letter by former President Thabo Mbeki to President Cyril Ramaphosa. Stay with us. Your time, it is 24 minutes after the hour, 10 o'clock. Welcome to the Supersonic Sweet Sunday Live on 89.1 FM. Muntu Kambanja is my name and I'm your host all the way till 12 midnight. And of course, joining us tonight, we are joined by the Holy Man, Bishop Lazarus Maumela. He's our guest tonight, responding to the so-called the hatred explosive letter by former President Thabo Mbeki to the sitting current President Cyril Ramaphosa. So tonight we unpack the pushback and the fight back and the respond from the Holy Man, Bishop Lazarus Maumela. He's joining us on visual Zooming tonight. It's 25 minutes after the hour, 10 o'clock. Oh yeah. Just quickly before we connect to the Honorable Bishop, the respond from the first paragraph of the Holy Man, Bishop Lazarus Maumela, to this explosive letter to former President. He said, the former President Thabo Mbeki can't hide his long-time hatred toward President Cyril Ramaphosa, which began when Cyril Ramaphosa was elected as the Secretary General of the ANC in 1991. So we'll hear more with His Holiness Bishop Lazarus Maumela joining us on Zoom. Good evening to you, Honorable Bishop. welcome to our show. Good evening to you, My Holiness. How are you, sir? I'll try to connect them.
Honorable Mbanjwa.
Are you good, my honorable sir?
Now I'm fine, and also evening to the viewers of the station.
Thank you very much, His Holiness, for taking time to talk to us tonight on the show. We really appreciate. Thank you very ever so much again.
You're also welcome.
All right, Bishop, let's get straight to the cut of things. Before we get straight to the thick and thin of things, to many people who are under the rock, who do not know who is His Honorable Holiness Bishop Lazarus Maumela.
Okay, I'm Azuyangwe Lazarus Maumela, born in Venda, but grew up in Alexandra. So I've been an Alex boy in 16th Avenue, London. I've spent my time there. I did my matric in Alexandra, and then I went to tertiary while I was in Alexandra. I started a church in Baptist, been a member of Baptist for years in Alexandra. So I've been an Alex child. My childhood has been in Alexandra.
Yeah. No, great stuff.
And I'm a member of African National Congress.
If you can quickly just to quickly take us into confidence, why did you join the struggle and being the man of God?
The Bible says that if ungodly men rule, the country or the people that are in the country will suffer. Two, basically that is scriptural. And then two was the issues of the injustice and the experience we have experienced when we were in Alexandra. I still remember very well when we were arrested in 1986 within an issue where there were people that were not supposed. If you grew up in Alexandra, you know what happens in 86. You know what happens in those few years there.
Yeah.
And it was quite difficult because for some of us that were coming from the north, who will not speak a certain language, because you would know that at the time the enemy had infiltrated to some of the people of the same color.
Yeah.
So there were that situations, and some of us, I remember the late Samuel Matunjwa, may his soul rest in peace, when he said to me, Emuna, and then we are not supposed to cross over.
Yeah.
You know what was happening in 86, that you could not even go to and all these things if you speak a certain language.
Yeah, during the days of the no-go areas.
Yes, those things frustrated us very well because there was this notion that, you know, when you speak Venda, Shangan, and then it was because the enemy was trying to
divide us,
to divide us and all this. So that was something that motivated me to join the struggle. So I said, no, we can't allow this. Issues of tensions and all these things that
now let's get to the bigger picture. You said as a member of the ANC, which is the governing party, Now, a lot of things has happened, and a lot of things are happening in the ANC. There's no doubt that the ANC has been divided as ever before. Now, according to you, Bishop Lazarus, do you believe that there is still time for the ANC to redeem itself, to renew itself, to reinvent itself, to go back to the glory days of the ANC that was loved by the people, that was trusted by the people, that many people thought this is the ANC that we all want to see bringing about life in our lifetime?
Okay. Thank you so much, Honorable. I agree. There is still a time for ANC to redeem itself, and that time is now. And I believe that the ANC it's in that process, and we have seen that actions. I mean, the reason why there's so much tensions within the ANC is that one man said this in 2017, and I think if I can still remember correctly, it was in March 2017. Comrade Joel Netstenge, the comrade I respect so much, he said, the beneficiary of the state capture will not give up without a fight. Now, what is the challenge of the ANC at the moment that we are facing? We are facing the challenge of we are failing to transform the life of our people, basically because of the cancer of corruption. I mean, me and you, we are from Alex. We know that there's been a number of things that could have changed in Alexander. You can't have Sandton and have Alexander the way it is, that for years and years, though there are a number of development in Alexander, but because of corruption, you look at the street in Alexander, absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
You look at the issue of storages in and around of Alexander. I mean, a person is sleeping and the sewage is running under the bed of that particular person. That is the condition that is unacceptable. And which is that it is because of the corruptions that take times for years and years. Coming to your question, yes, the ANC it's in the process to renew itself. You have seen people being asked to get, I mean, look at what is happening in Limpopo, where you got mayors being asked to step down because of the corruptions that have taken time. You look at what happens in the Eastern Cape, in the Northwest, and you look at what has happened even in the movement itself. There are some of us who could not taken positions, who were asked not to take positions because there is in simple saying, if your history doesn't satisfy us, we ask you to step aside. And that is the crusader of cleaning the corruptions within our own movement. And I'm saying it will, and it's in that path. And unfortunately, I can simply say, not unfortunate, I can simply say that 70% of the ANC we have is a renewed ANC.
Wow. Now, what would you say to those who are saying the only solution that the ANC was successfully enough to implement, it was the step-aside solution, the step-aside. Now, some are even arguing the fact that the step-aside, it's very selective. It happened to other people who happen not to be on the other side of the camp. There are many people, some I believe they should have been suspended, but they are still in the ANC. So some believe that the way it was done factionally, you know, to oust those who are on the opposing side, and it's all about the power struggle in the ANC. And I'm sure you cannot deny the fact that the ANC has been divided, deeply divided. There are factions within the ANC.
Thank you, the host, Ubabu, that is hosting me. I totally disagree with you, and I will disagree with you on these two lines. One, the ANC is in the process of renewing itself. Now, when you're in the process of renewing itself, and this is what is happening in the ANC, you will have those that revolt against the process, mainly because of the things that are literally happening. Because some, if they can lose the power they have, that simply means that they won't protect themselves from the wrongdoing that they've been doing. Now, the issue here, it's who is saying that this step aside has been selected. That's the first question that you need to ask. Who is saying that?
These are members of the ANC.
Saying that because the step aside, sorry to say, the step aside is very clear. It says that if you have been found wanting, and then you have been charged, and or your allegations are of the serious matter, you would have to step aside. And it's a matter of a conscience. And it's a matter of saying, if you, you see, there is these things in Venda that says, you know, I will say it in English for the benefit of time. And there is this thing that says that those that are with you, you will see them by their reactions when they are getting disciplined. Now, those that are saying that the step aside have been very selective, they are totally very wrong. I mean, we had Comrade Mawian in the KZN, who literally just volunteered to step down. With Comrade Florence Radlani in the Limpopo, who voluntarily stepped down. And those that are saying step aside is selective are those that when they've been asked to step down, I mean, they take their own time.
Well, that's fair enough. Now, there are other ministers, comrades, that have been implicated in the Zondo Commission, that they have been found wanting, but they were never told to step aside. Another issue here, Honorable Bishop, is that it is alleged that President Ramaphosa did indeed appear at the ANC Integrity Committee to explain the issue of Phala Phala. And the Integrity Committee of the ANC suggested that the president should step aside while the issue is being investigated. Is it true or false that the Integrity Commission of the ANC did suggest that President Ramaphosa should step aside in the meantime the investigation continues pending?
Well, I'll not answer on the side of Ramaphosa or on the side of the Integrity Commission that they'd asked Comrade Ramaphosa whether to step down or not to step aside. But what I could say, I think those are fallacy, because and this is the question that I have raised in the issue of Phala Phala, just to divert your questions. It's simple say, why is Thabo Mbeki making a noise on the matter of Phala Phala? Now, secondly, why is that even the story of Phala Phala comes out to public? Thabo Mbeki had already raised issues on President Ramaphosa, even before the day that says the money has been stolen, before it has been stolen. Now, it then leads us to simply say, are we not dealing with an organized group of people who want to tempt another person as what Comrade Joel National have said, that the beneficiary of state capture will not give up without a fight? Because Thabo Mbeki as well we know what he still has to answer on the issue of arms deal. So I'm simply saying that on Ramaphosa, on the issue of step aside on Parapara, I think will not be fair because we do not know what exactly has happened.
Yeah. Okay.
And that particular Ramaphosa was, remember, Ramaphosa is the victim of crime that happens in his own farm. And he's simply saying that the money has been stolen there. It is not what people are perpetuating outside there. And secondly, he is simply saying, and those that has a bigger numbers, you hear them by Thabo Mbeki, you hear them by Fraser, you hear them, but we are waiting for the police to simply say, this is the money that has been found there. It is this amount of money. And because at the moment, the amount that is in the public there, it is not confirmed, it's allegedly said, because even the investigations that were done by the retired Judge Ngobo, it's simple. When you read that report, when you go down, it simply says that we did not find any evidence, but we believe that President Ramaphosa has something to answer on the matter of Parapara. Now, it didn't say against, it says he has something to answer. And my worry is that it's in their report, it says that we have no evidence of whatsoever to deal with this matter. So anybody that would say to Comrade Ramaphosa must step down on fallacy. Otherwise, we would simply say to everybody, we accuse you of crime that you have never committed. And then you would have to step aside because he's not running the business. He had declared his own business on records. He have taken all these things prior, before he became the deputy president. He decided to shift his things to where it has been run by relevant people. And then for whatsoever that is happening there, the problem of Ramaphosa is that he's an honest man in a corrupt and dangerous space of thugs and looters country.
Now, what is your response that Ramaphosa is one of those richest comrades in the ANC, and Ramaphosa is one of those comrades who were given shares by the Oppenheimers, by the Ruperts. Ramaphosa is one of the richest men, is richer than the ANC. Now, the $1 million question that I'll pose to you is what many people are saying, that how did he become a billionaire over a night if you allege that he's an honest man? The $1 million question that many people are asking, and that's a $1 million question, how did he become a billionaire over a night? It takes time to become a billionaire, Honorable Bishop, isn't it?
I think your question is not informed. And then it's, I think that question, it eliminates from the Eurothentics. It's something which is not here but there. You said he became a billionaire overnight. That's not true. Ramaphosa, when he was the Secretary General of the ANC, it came a time that he was asked to, because there was a tension between him and Thabo Mbeki.
What was the tension about?
Where the tension? No, there was a political tension. I mean, everybody was positioning himself to be a deputy president at the time, and Cyril and Thabo Mbeki, they were both the deputy president, and the one would wanted to dominate over another. There was that political tense, and that on its own, my learned friend or my good friend, on its own, it created a tension. And the tension that Cyril then went to a business. He did not become a billionaire overnight. In fact, he worked his way, because even before he became the Secretary General. The man was in business. He was in law. They had a law firm in Marshalltown. It's also this fallacy of saying Cyril becomes a billionaire over a night. It's not informed, and I think it's said by people who suffered from a certain ideology that is not good, because, and this is a problem about our media and then our people. We like to say things without not proper checking, because we've been raised by generations of liars, where people say this one was a head of intelligence, this one this and this was a spy, and all these things, and we don't research what has been said. So he has been a business for years, and in that business, anybody who's in the business can have any partnership with whoever that he wants to have, because it's in the business interest, whether you have a business partner with this or that. And if you look at the diversity of the business of Ramaphosa, he has business with different people, black and white, and its business. I mean, you know about the Shanduka Black Pages, that on its own was carrying the black people right in Sandton and Marshalltown in Johannesburg, where it is a different business people coming and they do their own business. So if you said that he became a billionaire overnight, and I think you're not correct there, because it has been years. It has, and whatever that he has. I mean, I was laughing with someone when we were looking at the own of Clicks, I mean of Discan, who started the business 10 years before Cyril started the business. And the man, he was just an EMEA clerk. And then he became one of the richest. I think it's in top. His wealth is 10 times what we are crying about of a Cyril Ramaphosa. And these things of a black crying over another black, that's what makes us remain poor. Because when one black person become rich, we don't celebrate. There are many people who are in the top 10, top 7. Cyril is in the top 15. In fact, it's number 14, the richest person in South Africa. He has been in the business before even Motsepe. I mean, and Motsepe is more richer than Cyril. He has been in the business before Robert Gumede. Robert Gumede is more wealthier than President Ramaphosa, and we do not have a problem about that.
Now let's talk about.
Against
Yeah. Okay, that's fair enough, Bishop. Now, let's talk about your response, the letter. You say on your letter, this is the hatred letter. What do you mean by that hatred letter towards President Ramaphosa? Do you believe that President Mbeki really hates President Ramaphosa?
Of course I do. I mean, of course I do. Mbeki never loved Ramaphosa.
Yeah, tell us more.
I'm saying Mbeki never loved Ramaphosa. This is the man that was in the same position with him. And Thabo Mbeki was just an NEC member, was not an official, and was a deputy president. Christian was the number one in the list. Christian got killed. Then that makes Thabo Mbeki to remain number one. And going to the conference, Cyril had to resign to make ways. He succumbs to the pressure at the time. And when he succumbs to a pressure, he resigned from being a Secretary General, and a lot of things then build up to Thabo Mbeki being elected as a deputy president. And I'm simply saying, with that on its own, this is the person that was in the same positions with Thabo Mbeki as the deputy president. And Cyril was pushed. I believe he was pushed. And with that, it's that there's been this thing. I remember, though I was very young, in a Durban conference where at a certain stage Cyril was asked, Ubani Lo, which is literally, who is this one? And in the conference. And that
Who
emotion. So
can I come in there quickly, Bishop? Who was asking another one? Ubani Lo. It was
Thabo Mbeki.
Okay, go ahead, say.
Yeah. So I'm simply saying that this man never loved Ramaphosa. I mean, for the past 9 years, when Zuma was a leader, the whole 9 years he was saying nothing. The whole Gupta things and all scandals of Transnet and VBS, where our old people has to lose money, he said nothing. Somebody become a victim of a crime in his farm that is managed by the people that is appointed to run his business so that he focus into the presidential duty. Then he then becomes the spokesperson of some sort. I mean, how can the former president said that if you want to report crime, you must go to his foundation? While there is a press, I mean, he's undermining. This is the man who should be charged of a human crime that he committed by denying people to receive an ARVs. People should have received an ARV, and yet people who have died because of HIV and AIDS, and they tell us to eat beetroot. Today, South Africa, it has the biggest number of HIV because of ignorances of Comrade Thabo Mbeki. Number two, this is the man who went to Zimbabwe and said, you know, there is no problem in Zimbabwe. Everything is fine.
The quiet diplomacy.
Thousands and thousands. I want to finish by this point. This is the man who should be charged of a war crime in Zimbabwe. Number three, this is the man whom, when he was advised on the issue of Eskom that in 20 years to come, Eskom will collapse, he said, no, there is no need to build more power stations. So in times of load shedding, Thabo Mbeki should take responsibility. In fact, he should be charged for that particular matter because he has denied, and the whole population, we are struggling, our businesses are suffering. You could not have a show at 6 o'clock because of load shedding, and that impact into your progress because of this so-called Thabo Mbeki.
Now, what do you make of him writing the letter to the Deputy President, Paul Mashatile, as others are saying, well, it should have gone to, he knows the relevant structures in the ANC to take the matter forward. But now, what is your take on him writing a letter to an individual who holds the highest office, the Deputy President? What is your view on that? What is your thinking around that? Why specifically is he writing the letter to Paul Mashatile? What is he hoping to achieve? What is he hoping to achieve by doing that?
Divide and rule strategy. So he want to divide. I think Thabo Mbeki want to take South Africa in a cope. And,
oh yeah.
And that's my feelings when I'm sitting, that this man, because the arms deal is in the rocket, and the only way to save himself to redeem. Remember, in 2017, he wanted Jonas to contest the presidency. The campaign failed. And then he tried a former deputy, Comrade Mlambo Ngcuka, to contest the presidency.
Yeah.
It fails. And why is it that he always wants to appoint somebody to compete to be a president? What is it that he's so scared of? I mean, he's a pensioner. He should enjoy his money sitting at home, not, moonlighting left and right, and using his foundations as like some Mickey Mouse spokesperson of some angered people and UNISA. And it's a disgrace to the UNISA as an institution. That is one of the biggest universities in Africa that had to partner with such mediocrity or such a fallacy man like Thabo Mbeki.
Now, but others are saying, well, a man of a statue of Thabo Mbeki, he's an international statesman. What he's talking about here, Thabo Mbeki, he's bringing wisdom to the movement as someone who grew up in the ANC and as someone who understands the ANC, that really what is happening within the ANC during his lifetime, there is no ethical leadership. And now he's trying to say, hang on, ANC, this is not how things are done in the ANC. And then by saying so, or by doing so, he's been seen as someone who's power hungry, who wants to return to power one way or the other. But he was just saying, as an elder of the ANC, really, when someone is found wanting and not being held accountable, there's a problem here until someone is proven guilty or not. But some people are saying Mbeki, he's talking on his capacity as an experienced senior statesman, someone who grew up in the ANC, someone who understands the ANC, someone who's trying to give direction to the so-called the sinking Titanic ship. So some see him as someone who wants to ascend to power by using other people, but he was just merely saying he's giving direction in terms of let's we not forget as the ANC as who we are and what we present. So he was just merely giving direction. So I don't know, what's your take on that?
Thank you so much for that question, and also to the viewers. I disagree. It depends in what is it that you want to see? You know, there are people that when they see people, they just see thieves and thugs, even when a person is passing by. So there are those, you know, if you have ever been robbed in Alexandra or in Stweta or Tsutsumani, whenever you see somebody passing by, if you are in Tsutsumani, you would think some people want to rob you. But
okay, Bishop, we're just going to take a break. We're just going to hold it there, and then we'll be right back on the other side of this. Mamedi, do stay with us. We're just going to have a quick break, and then we'll return on the other side of things with Bishop Maumela. Stay with us.
This is Sello Makakangube, and you are listening to the Sweet Sunday Show with Muntu Ambanjwa Werneda. Hi, this is Sello Makakangube, and you are listening to the Sweet Sunday Show with Muntu Ambanjwa Werneda.
This is DJ Kanyani, and you're listening to Alex FM. It's on.
Your time is 23. It's 3 minutes away from the hour. 3 minutes after 11 o'clock. And we are still in conversation with His Holiness Bishop Lazarus Maumela. He's our guest on Visual Zoom. It's a good evening to you, South Africa, wherever you are. And of course, if you are still driving on the road, keep it safe and sound. Make sure that you don't drink and drive. 4 minutes after the hour, 11 o'clock, in case you have just joined in, we are in conversation with Bishop Lazarus Maumela. He's our guest on Zoom Visual. Thank you so much, Bishop, and welcome back.
Thank you so much to the viewers and the listeners. My apology, I'm just been struck by load shedding.
Yeah.
The light is not clear.
Now, still talking about load shedding, Bishop, people are saying during the tenure of President Zuma and President Mbeki, there was no load shedding like now. Now, during the term of President Ramaphosa, there's a lot of load shedding. So there was no load shedding during Mbeki, during Zuma. But now it's Ramaphosa. There's a lot of shedding. Look at where we are now. We are on stage 6. So from stage 6, maybe we might move on to stage 8 and bounce back to stage 4, whatever. So what is your view when they say there's more load shedding under Cyril Ramaphosa?
Well, the question that you need to ask those people, which country do they stay in? Because really, if they lived in South Africa, they would know that there was a load shedding in 2007. In fact, initially it started in 2006. And the panel of engineers advised Thabo Mbeki to say, some years ago, I think it started from 90-something, I'm sorry to say, where he was advised to say there will be a bad load shedding. If you are increasing the capacity to the grid, you are loading a lot of people to the grid, and you are not putting any. You are not expanding in terms of the of more capacity to be able to carry these. And even during the times of JZ, there was a load shedding. Now, it's something that we need to actually take through our people so that they understand where we come from. The engineering problem is not something that you can fix it overnight. If one of your MCR there can get banned today, it might take time to be fixed. Because those are the engineering things. But to say that there was no load shedding during Zuma's and during Thabo Mbeki, that's not a right thing, and that's a liar.
Yeah. Okay. Now. Okay.
Beyikhona uThabo Mbeki bamhlalisa phansi ukuthi lalela tata, maungalungisi ama-power station, unga-akhi ama-power station amaninzi in 90s, sizoba nenkinga la eSouth Africa, enkinga enkulu. Sikule nkinga ye-load shedding ngendaba yoThabo Mbeki yokuba stubborn and greedy. If Thabo Mbeki was not stubborn and greedy, we were not going to experience the load shedding today. So anyone who blames Ramaphosa on load shedding, you must remember these things. uRamaphosa uthola laba bantu sebayibile imali ye-Eskom. Into yokuqala, lento ukuthi baphendule the way Eskom used to operate and centralize ama-power station. Ukuthi tenders must be decided in the power station. And nakhona ama-tender khona, you look at Middleburg, Arnott, Kendall, and then Medupi. it will tell you ukuthi inkinga ye Eskom ayiqali ngoba Ramaphosa ongenile.
Yeah.
Just to give you an example, ngicela unikeze isikhathi kancane ngokuchaza.
Yeah, okay.
Imiduphi a power station ya-akhwa laba bantu bayakhile babaleka yasale ngenamuntu base kuze abanye imali yakhona ezele vele seyafaka kodwa i-results ayiboni njengoba masihleli kanje sihleli umncameni. One of the problem is the issue in Kendal Power Station and as well as Medupi Power Station. Because these power stations were not well builded. Hence, we're in this problem. Taking load shedding to Ramaphosa will be a fallacy. Masses so because no Zuma white taller. That's why you will never heard me saying Uzuma was the reason of load shedding. Because Uzuma utola in Harry into beseshiwe ngoThabo Mbeki wa advise uThabo Mbeki asaqala kungena ngabo 90s ukuthi mawunga akhi amanye ama power station because a problem esinayo in South Africa, it is the capacity that we are carrying. We have too many people on the grader, and that gives a problem. And any problem is in Sagas. Sine problem here is Nyoga. And that's one of the problem. And this problem was neglected because it neglected to kanjani ukuthi abantu banga akhele zindlu bamuvi so lebe bahlala khona. And also when they were moving them, they didn't have a plan. So there was no plan. When people were moved in Alexander, starting about, you look at about 11 and 12, those who have been moved, Beseba Keloma flat, others will rent a flat and still stay in their own shack. And that on its own, there are many people, and not only Abantu Bamnyam, Abo is Nyonganyong. You go to the farms in Marlborough, you go to the farms in GP's towns, and throughout of Johannesburg, you got people that are bridging, who are not paying for electricity. And that on its own is a problem. Any problem. You remember during the apartheid, if usakumbula kahle
yeah,
the apartheid government tried to change Eskom more than 3 times. They privatize it, they bring it back. They privatize it, they bring it back. They privatize it, they bring it back. Why? Because they could see the problem and the danger that was coming on their way. So Cyril is not a reason of a load shedding.
Okay, that's fair enough. But now, what do you say? Andrew De Ruyter has said it live to the nation that Eskom is being robbed about 1 billion every month. And now, what is the government, what is the problem with Eskom? Is it management problem or is it political problem? We have heard it from the man himself, Andrew De Ruyter, saying Eskom, 1 billion rand is being looted every month at Eskom. So my question to you, Honorable Bishop, is that what is the actual problem at Eskom? Is it political problem or is it a management problem?
Eskom problem is a management problem because of decentralizations in Eskom. That creates a number of problems. I told you that once you decentralized to simple says each and every power stations, when they want to order, and it's like I'll give you an example. I'm saying that as a chairperson of an independent advisory body of South Africa, which have been elected 3 months ago. And then one of the things that we have done as that independent advisory board was that to call the engineers that are there at ESCOM, those that have left. Remember, there was a time even Germany had to come to South Africa and say, South Africa is doing well in terms of the electricity, to learn from the engineers. I mean, I think that was around 2001 and 2002, because at the time we're doing well. But Germany, as much as they've come to learn from the engineers, they also warn us about capacity to say it, you're going to battle, and 80% of the supplier will be affected. So Thabo Mbeki did not mind about that because he doesn't care about us. He cares about his business in Congo and Zimbabwe. That's why he doesn't give a damn about us who are staying in the dark. Now, what I'm simply saying is that the decentralizations of ESCOM, where you give power to the power station to do procurement, and what they do, these engineers, when they do their specs, they do the specs and they make sure it goes to their own friends. And they steal the same materials from ESCOM. The same engineer will steal things from ESCOM. And then it goes back to ESCOM again. And ESCOM keeps on buying same things. Now, and it's sad, particularly in Mpumalanga, because even police, that's why you have a provincial commissioner who have been suspended, which I'm not sure whether she was directly involved. But I'm told that some of the police, they work with these people. And worse, it's done by black and white, not only blacks only. You look at those guys, they drive, I mean, so expensive and big cars. So the issue of ESCOM, it's a management. That's why Andrew, one thing I love about Andrew, was able to dig as far as, also there's a lot of groups of people, crooks that have been suspended from ESCOM. Because he was digging. Unfortunately, his focus was on trying to get criminals, and he was not supported. Because that institution, that's why to unbundle it, it will be a way to go, because those people are thieves, my friend. Very well trained to steal. They don't care about the poor and the poor of the poor. And the unions are also part of the people that are in cuckoo with these people that are messing up. I saw which you can call Ivan Jim and you bring him here and you bring me so that we debate on this matter. Because by the time when the discipline, or once if one person can be arrested, they will close the power station and march. And when they march, the Gogo who is in Tsutsumani or who is in Roosevelt, in Alexander, doesn't know what is happening in ESCOM. She just sees that there is no electricity. Whereas our own people are doing these things. And it's unfortunate that our judiciary system has been made in a manner that to deal with crime, it takes years and years.
Still talking about crime, I want us to change a bit. Let's talk about racism in South Africa. South Africa has experienced a lot of racism in South Africa and has been going on for some time now. And South Africa is on the verge of racial civil wars. Now, I want to know from you, Bishop as a holy man, that things like racism, sexism, patriarchy, gender-based violence, and other forms of bigotry and some other chauvinistic behavior against black women in the workplace, at universities, and other spaces. How should we deal directly with such things like racism, sexism, patriarchy in our society? What is your view on that?
Yeah, look, we have a societal problem, which is emanated from the issue of an absent parent. I'll give an case and an example, sorry to bring this one, the issue of Thabo Bester. If you listen to the story, very shocking, but we should take the case of Thabo Bester and draw some inspirations and take some things that we educate ourselves in this way, that a child is born out of rape, and there is that anger between the mother and the child. And as that, there is that anger. Now that child will not be raised well. Now that is the issues that we need to teach ourselves, that even if you have been raped and then you have a child, you don't need to hate yourself and hate that child, and you neglect the responsibility of raising that child. Because the problem that we have is that we have given away the responsibility of raising our own children. As a result, we are raising the monsters instead of raising people that will be able to address issues. Because the reason that makes that boy and that girl to be able to behave in a certain manner, it is only made because we are not raised in a manner that how to respond to this issue. Because we need to tell our kids that when a woman said no, you must respect that. When a woman said that it's over, we can't be together, we must respect that. But then we have stopped that, and the boy will grow up, will be mingled around the child. We've been told there is no a girl who must leave you. When now you can't be left. You are umntana kabani when oshiwa lula kanje. You know, all those kind of a thing. So I think that's, we need to start to say, and we must have educations in publics and also at work. One of the things that is not done well, particularly in South Africa, is that we are not able to bring both men and women at work and talk about these things frankly. To say, we need to respect each other. We are not able to take these girls while they are teenagers at schools and bring them in one place and talk about these things, so that we deal with things earlier before it can also, you know, happen. And even this, I think we need to regulate social media.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
and the issues of televisions, because these kids are watching movies and series that are doing things where women have been abused, where men has been abused, and you know, they learn all those kind of things. But to cut it a long story short, we need to start it from our own family.
That's fair enough. Still on that question, Honorable Bishop, I want us to come to the issue of whether from your perspective, that is it true or is it false that in some parts of South Africa, particularly in the rural areas, women are still not treated as equal citizens to men, because some traditional leaders still believe that the woman's place is still in the kitchen, and then this is part of the traditional culture. It should not be questioned. You cannot question that a woman should be equal to men. So this is what is happening somewhere in the rural areas, where people are saying women are not yet treated as equal citizens to men, because some men still believe that women cannot be treated equal to men. Their place still it's in the kitchen. So how do we balance religion and cultural rights against women? Where do we draw the line in this regard?
Okay. I agree with you. In some parts of the world, some parts of the world, such thing is still happening. But I think, because I don't think our culture teaches to abuse our own women. It teaches us to love them. And because people confuse a responsibility and a right. There is and things that one will voluntarily do. I mean, I was raised by a father who would wash things, even my mother's stuff, and put it outside. And I mean, I was raised by a father who will cook and do dishes. You know.
Are you still there, Honorable Maumela? Okay, we're just going to come back to him. Let's do this.
Hi, this is Seloma Kakangube, and you are listening to the Sweet Sunday Show with Muntu Ambanjwa.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, welcome back. Yeah, we are still on, Bishop. Can you hear me, Bishop, now?
Solomon,
Yeah, no, it's okay.
The load shedding is this Thabo Mbeki's leakers is disturbing us. I was simply saying that people confuse things that, you know, what a person should do and what two people agreed on and how we should do things. But what bothers me is to see the percentage of women in the rural area not being allowed to participate in the leadership role and in the civil societies, because people think that the role of a woman it's in the kitchen, and that's not true. A role of a woman is not in the kitchen only. It is a role to be in the kitchen as much as a man to be in the kitchen. It is everybody's role. So we can't neglect that in one particular person. But we should be against such conduct in our society. That's what I can say.
Yeah. Now, April, it's the Freedom Month. April is still the Freedom Month. We call it the Freedom Month. Now, from your perspective, Honorable Bishop, I just want to hear from you, after 29 years of freedom and democracy, what kind of freedom and democracy should the people of South Africa be enjoying after 29 years of freedom? What sort of freedom should the people of South Africa be enjoying today, particularly those in the rural areas and those in the poor townships? What kind of freedom should they be enjoying after 29 years of freedom and democracy in South Africa, in your personal perspective?
Thank you so much, Muntu. There are a lot of things that we can celebrate. The first thing, it's what me and you are enjoying now. And one of the things that the ANC government have done it well. You know, community radio stations are all over the place, even in the most rural areas. They've got access to education, free educations, and access to electricity. They've got a number of things. I mean, is this government that when you give a child umuntu and a man who ran away and not even support abantwana babo, this government step in to be a parent, to become a father to a child osiwe ngobaba wakhe. I-government iwondle lo mntwana. Ithe maseyakhula ithi hamba esikolweni mntana wami. Imuyise esikolweni, imudlise esikolweni. Ithe mayagula ithi hamba eklinik. Imlaphe. Baba wakhe ngalesikhathi ubalekile ugijima namanye amantombazana. Same government ise ithi kuyo lo mntwana ngizokuyisa e-university, ngizokukhokhelela bese ngikunikeze nendawo yokulala. And we have so many people. One lady who is a doctor who comes from in fact, one guy who is a doctor who is in Steve Biko Hospital, which is one of the first to do a certain operation in. He is the product of the very same democracy that we're talking about. The first young girl who, she's in the army, who flies what we call it a Spitfire at a very young age. So there are a number of things. Yet, yes, there are things that this government has not yet achieved. But there are things. I mean, I'm from where my parents come from in Venda. Comes from the rural areas where we used to travel almost 40 kilometers to experience town and experience a tar route, 40 to 50 kilometers. But today we just drive out, there is a tar route. And those are progress. The schools, the status of the schools, classes that we have, the freedoms that we enjoy. Me and you now, we are talking, we're criticizing this government. We are saying to some of these government leaders, you didn't do well here. You wouldn't do it, Muntu.
Yeah. Now,
these are things that we can't take them for granted, you know.
Yeah.
And you look at all these monies, whereas there's things that we have not done it well, and we have not. It's a progress in working, but there's a lot that we can celebrate about.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that I want to go back to, you've spoken about the rural areas. Now, my concern here is the issue of the land. Why it has taken the government so long to return the land to its indigenous or rightful owners. For example, Honorable Bishop, you spoke of your hometown where you grew up in Venda. I want to say to you, I'll put this question to you, that traditional leaders believe that they are not being recognized and treated equally. They are not being recognized as the custodian of the land, and they are not being treated equally, and they are not being recognized equally like others. They are still not being recognized as the custodians of the land, even in Venda, even in other places. And again, the question to you, Honorable Bishop, why it has taken the government for so long to return the land to its rightful owners, including to the rural village, your own chief, where you come from, the land. Okay. It has taken time. Why? What is the hold-up, Bishop?
Thank you so much. The two questions. I will start with the one year, the traditional leaders not been treated the same. I'm from a royal family. It's a serious concern, and of which this is what the enemy have managed, but also with the issues of not having the true history of South Africa, where we have a lot of bits of history which is not correct. And will tell you, Venda, it's only starting from Louis Trichardt going down. Whereas my grandfather and my ancestors told me Venda started as much as Mabopane, and then Marawa started Pretoria, go down. But that's the topic of another day. I'm a historian, by the way. And secondly, the issue that then led on the issues because one person was interested with one history, and because perhaps the bigger, let's take the question of the Zulu land, where you have the tribe Yaboshaka, the Zolletin families, are dominating and they become more in numbers. And I think when the ANC takes power, they didn't deal with these issues correctly. They followed the apartheid system that was there. Because during the apartheid, still the Zulu people were regarded as, you know, and the very same system that is here. And then the King Pepu in Venda was regarded as the most powerful one, the most recognized one by the government of the apartheid. Unfortunately, when they take the government, they could not change that because it is you would know the tension that was happening of the Inkatha and all these things. There was that fear, the bloodshed that happens during the time when Chris was killed. There was that fear that Masingaithatha lento leni izosibangela and more bloodshed and which is a serious problem. And I think the time is now. One of the things that we have said in the policy conference of the ANC and the national conference of the ANC, the one we just concluded, though I'm not a rightful person to talk about this on the media, but I want to say this. One of the things that the ANC have said was that it need to be looked at because it demoralized people. I had a session with a Contra-Lesser the other day, just to have an English. And then it's something that the government is working on it. But again, it is these things, it's the kings on top of themselves. Because remember, if you're in Venda, the person who owns the land in Venda, government has the smallest number of the land. The land belongs to the paramount chief. Now, then those who own it becomes a PTO and all these things. Now, that's what I'm saying, when people talks about the land, that is not in the rightful owner. The first question that we need to start to ask them is that which land are they talking about? Because there is these issues of people just saying, we must expropriate land. I'll give you an example about Northern Cape, where the government almost made a big blunder. Other people went and claimed, the other family also went and claimed and said, we don't know this one. So if you look at these things of the people where they were claiming the land and all these things, also that is the issues that people just wake up today and say they want to claim the land. I'll tell you about the experience that my family experienced in Venda, where there is a mall going up to Minister's House and going out to Spasa. We have more than 70 claims. Mm-hmm. And I've seen it also in Cape Town in different areas, because at some stage I was involved with these issues of land. The issues of land, if we were becoming honest to ourselves and say, who was in Sandton first? You will know there was no one there. Nobody can claim Alexander. Mm-hmm. Now, the only thing that you should say, because I know that for a fact, where the land is ours, we sat down in the table and the government put the money and we said, we don't want the money, we want the shares. We want the shares in the mall, we want the shares there, and this is what we want. We don't want the land. I mean, we don't want the money, but we need the shares in every production that is happening here. And I will tell you about in Tatevondo, where the chief Chivas is doing tea. You must go to Woolworth and look for Nido tea.
Is that the green tea?
The land that has been taken out We take it from the white people. There was no government involved there. We went there and say, look, you, Mandela is now a president. Your time is up. So the problem in the issues of land, when the land issue is taking too long, it is that misdirections of the ownership. Where, I mean, you have the family of the Dagamas there in Alexander, in the Marlborough side, and the Dagamas who are also in Alexander, also in Tutumani, others there in East Bank, which some of them, they're originally from Venda. They've got their own big land there. But then you have a land which is abandoned. People are not doing anything about it. And the land that people want, and we need to be honest, because I think when it comes to the issues of land, as South African, we must not just say it's land. I mean, you look at the Ngonyama Trust, it owns the 75% of the land of KZN. And this is black to black. There's no white person, right? There's no white person. Now, the land that you're talking about in the sea, it's the part of the Ingonyama land. And in the other maybe seas that is not part of it, the question it could be, why there's no rightful owner who goes and claim?
Okay. Still in conversation with Honorable Bishop. I think we've got a slight technical problem. We'll be back with him right now. Just stay with us. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep. We are back again with Honorable Bishop. Yeah. We are on back, Bishop. Can you please go ahead?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead, Bishop.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a misdirection of the state. I think it's a political statement that is aimed to play in the emotions of people.
Now, what do you say?
Yes, there is a land. I mean, you look at in Northwest Bafokeng, you look at how many land do they own there. So the question that we should say is what we need to debate is how do we equally distribute and give this land or make a set of benefits to our people. And the only thing that we must do, which I agree, that's where I agree with the sentiment of Honorable Mandashi, to simply say, I think it's about time to expropriate mines, all these things to belong to the government, so that there is, because what we are actually fighting for, it's actually where there is a big profit of money. Because it's a game of power, because, I mean, the lady in Strata doesn't need a land, need a job.
When you talk of expropriating the mines, what comes to mind is that people are alleging that the very same mines that you're talking about, they happen to be owned by members of the governing party, members of the ANC. The majority, some of them, they are shareholders, they own those mines. How then do we expropriate those mines? And yet members, most of high-profile members of the ANC, they've got shares, they own mines, most of them. How do we do that? And yet they know that's where their bread is buttered. Investments, shares, most of them, when they leave politics, they go into private sector. First stop in private sector is mining. Most of them, they hold shares. And some of them, they've been given shares. And some of them, they are now working in the mines. How do we expropriate mines? And yet, them, they are the main shareholders. They are the main beneficiaries out of those mines.
expropriate the mines. I mean, minority cannot rule over majority. If the decision is taken, it's taken. There's a need of a economic transformation. And part of that economic transformation should start now by simply saying, we can't have the biggest number of people in Strata. One of the, it breaks my heart, Muntu, to see. I was in Marlborough yesterday. I drove into the campsite and I drove around those farms. My heart was broken, my brother, to see the conditions of our own black people living in that kind of a condition. Whereas there's a certain things we could do, but I think the issue of expropriating mines, government should have 50% shareholdings into the mine. We must do as what the Botswana government is trying to do. It's not yet gazetted. So we must get the 50% of the government should own 50% of every mine in South Africa. And that is what, as an independent advisory body, we'll be fighting for. We'll be writing to the National Speaker of the Parliament to simply say the government should own 50% of the mine, and any they should here in South Africa, no oil or gas or petrol must be sold without the 50% to the government, so that the government can have a social benefits to those that are not working, should earn something that will be able to feed their family. So that we can have that money must be driven to a fund that would assist the situations of our own people.
So, Honorable Bishop, do you think the government does have indeed the political will to do that? The political will, because we always talk of good policies, my Honorable Bishop. At the end of the day, we say, no, there things couldn't happen because there was lack of political will.
Come on. What is the government? A government is me.
The government is the people, yeah.
And those that sit there, the executive. Government has 3 arms.
Yeah.
3.
Sure.
Now, if we don't stand up and say, this must be challenged, there won't be a change.
Mm-hmm.
Democracy does not mean sitting home and drink coffee and drink alcohol every day.
So we must stand up and shut down.
No,
stand up and shut down and protest. Bishop.
No, but there must be an advocate. I mean, Parliament has a platform.
Yeah.
We can do petitions, we can start a campaign, we can march peacefully and say, this is what we want.
And then at the end of the day, they say, Bishop, they've marched peacefully, they've handed petitions, they've done this, they've been left and right, short left, and then they come to the last resort to say, the only language now that the government understands is to do and bend the tire. That's the only language the government understands, because they said, we have tried all the avenues, we're exhausted. They don't listen. Some of the government officials, they're arrogant. Others, they don't want to hear their plea, So they decide to say, the only way to make them understand us is to bend the tire, because we have tried peacefully, doing all the petitions, no response, no anything. They don't want to listen. So we bend the tires, we shut down the country. Then they will understand. They will put more soldiers on the street. They'll make sure that, everything is in order. What's your take on that?
the problem is this march and strikes that are hired, where people are marching, but those that are marching don't understand anything. That's why there's no follow-up of anything, because, one day I was I'm always in Alexander. I was in Alexander sitting with because I still love Alexander, though I don't stay in Alexander. I love Alexander. Whenever I comes to 8th Avenue and I sit Namachita, La Pekoni, and then we have meet. And a bus then just come and stop there, a minibus, and say there is a strike tomorrow. We want you to come in, we will give you 400 rand.
Rent the crowd. Rent the crowd.
Rent the crowd. So that's why those strikes are not meaningful. I can tell you that there's been a number of writings that we have made. I'll give you one with the human settlement, where there was an issues of, of when the house have been built with the contract. They will say they're going to build 5,000 house, and then they built 2,000. Then the other 3,000, there was no follow-up. And at a certain place, at certain places, people will not be builded houses. And we look at the conditions and we find that this condition is difficult. And we wrote it to the parliament. And sometimes when the parliament doesn't respond, we went to court to enforce, because that what means a freedom. Freedom does not mean it means a full participation, because some of the things are done by officials. Look at what is happening with the a backlog of houses in Alexander.
Yeah.
You have Mozambicans having a house in Alexander, Zimbabweans, Nigerians. I was so angry at Phase 9 to see a Nigerian having a house because of corruption by our own people, our own officials.
So when you talk of Alexandra, Bishop, are you optimistic one day that maybe Alexandra, will develop and will prosper and flourish like other townships? Like you said, what you saw in Marlborough, it was really heartbreaking. The living conditions of the people of Alexandra. Are you optimistic that maybe one day Alexandra will be developed, will be a better place for the people of Alexandra? Alexandra will be developed, will flourish, will be productive, will be clean, will be alive and kicking like other township. Do you have hope? Are you optimistic? Yes. And if so, what needs to be done?
Yeah, I do. The challenge of the Alexander is the space. I do. And I know that there is talks of either demolishing some of the structure, and then the talks of, if they remove people in First Avenue, if they remove all from John Brandt, and they move them somewhere, they demolished where they removed them. And then there is that, and then there's that kind of a political will which has been arranged at the moment, and so that I know that Stratham and the other places they are going to build the flats, but there's a negotiation to say, what are the numbers of the people that are staying? Because the other biggest challenge of Alexander is that in a day, in one household, there could be one or two new people coming in.
Sure. New members.
New members.
New members.
That's a problem. I mean, I'm from Gomorrah. I know what I'm talking about.
Oh, you're quite right, yeah.
So, yeah, the world. I mean, Alexander has a mall today, which we never thought that would have. I mean, you have Penn, you have the Alex M Mall. So if they plan to demolish some of the building in Marlborough, and then demolishing some of the buildings in Strata, and as much as the I think it's also London, would assist big time in Alexander. And also, you see, because the other challenge is these Mikukus that we have there. We know it has raised us. I mean, we are the product of Mkuku. But I think we need to get rid of them to clean those houses.
Yeah, but you said because of the space.
Houses. Eh?
You mentioned the issue of the space.
Yeah, I mean, Alexander has beautiful houses. Those old 4 rooms are beautiful houses, I can tell you. And they can be developed to a double stories. Only if we empower our people, we give them jobs, and there is a policy that says a one household can have this number of the backyard.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Time is pressing on us. Bishop Maumela, your last parting shot. What would be your message to the Alexandrians and the people out there who are listening to the show right now, to Bishop Maumela, the people of Alexandria, your message, and the people of South Africa?
But Alexander, now I'm a child who grew up in Alexander under very difficult conditions. And I want to say that don't give up. There is a hope for tomorrow. The ANC is our organization, which we must protect and ridicule it at the same time, but not abandon it. And I want to say this to every household, to say, let's not neglect our own kids. We must raise them well. And fathers, please support your own child and spend time with your own child. There
you have it. That's Bishop Lazarus Maumela, member of the Advisory Council, giving a loud message. Thank you so much, Bishop. Hoping to talk to you again in a not long distance future. There we have it. Our time is 23:56, and it's time to love and leave you. And of course, Sisonto Amabaso shall be coming through at 12 to take care of you until the early hours of the Blue Monday. So from us and the rest of the crew, it has been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much to our guest, Bishop Lazarus Maumela, and of course the member of the Advisory Council, and also a member of the African National Congress. As you heard him saying, Guti, he grew up in Alex. He's still the son of Alex. Until we meet again next week, same time, same place. Of course, please do join us next week. Of course, we'll be talking to the president of Action SA. That's Mr. Herman Mashaba, will be our guest on the show. That's next week, right here on the Super Sunday live experience. So from me, Muntu Kambanjwa, until next time, may God bless you. Have yourself a great week. Until such time, take care. Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Silo Makekangube, and you are listening to the Sweet Sunday Show with Muntu Kambanjwa. Wurneda.
Temdini sedelela nomntwana ngusikazi umuntu esevenini ashela umntapala ehlala enyonto abantu masungule ikwala laphuza lapha naziswa uyalizwa ashela umntapala selikhona livela ngamadlebe entabeni mona ngavela ngekhanzosi ngathi uyashanti kudala wayishela